Hello and welcome to Catalyze Music Academy. My name is Zaak Kerstetter. I'm an Ableton Certified Trainer. And recently on the channel, I've been talking a lot about workflow and this kind of like concept of how you can streamline your workflow to write more music faster. And today I wanted to show you an example of what that actually means in action and show you kind of like how I can implement these concepts in order to just write music very, very quickly. That's what we're going to do today. We're going to start a song from scratch, from nothing, and we're going to build it out and at least get it to the point of being arranged and have like a core foundation for a track as fast as possible. Before we dive into that, I do want to let you know that if you are enjoying the content on the channel, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, check out the Patreon, check out the Discord, all that kind of stuff. It is all greatly appreciated. So before we dive into it, a couple of things I do want to talk about. Number one, the main focus that I'm going to be thinking about here is maintaining momentum as I'm writing. So this is going to come up in a lot of different ways. This is come up in, I'm going to start off with big picture ideas first. I'm not going to worry about details. I'm not going to worry about like EQing my kick or getting everything perfect. I want to start with the big ideas first and then work my way towards the details as time goes on. Because if you focus on details too early, it really kills your momentum and it really slows you down. The other thing I'm going to be focused on kind of along the same lines is going to be keeping it simple. Start off with really basic ideas. Placeholders are totally fine. Just get some ideas out of your head into your computer as fast as possible, and then we can fix them and kind of zhuzh them up a little bit later on in the process. So those are the main things. And on top of that, this is kind of designed for people who are maybe a little bit more on the beginner or intermediate side of working with live. If you kind of know how the software works a little bit, but you're really struggling to like really streamline that workflow and get your ideas out very quickly, this is really for you. So hopefully this gives you some ideas of places you can go next time you sit down and start writing a track. So we're going to start from scratch. This is just an empty blank session, no template or anything like that. We're going to start from the very beginning, and we're going to see how far we can get in a very short period of time. So to start off, when I'm sitting down to write a track, I generally like to start with drums, specifically because I don't like the metronome. And that way, as I'm playing in my other parts of my song, my bass line, my chords, my melodies, all that stuff, I don't have to listen to metronome, because I just have my drum track as my backing track. On top of that, oftentimes when I sit down to write a track, I don't know what tempo I want to play at. Sometimes I want to play a little slower, sometimes I will play a little faster. So starting with the drums allows me to make that decision kind of as I'm writing it, which is great. So to do this, we could go to our drums, find a nice drum rack or a drum preset that you like. I'm going to go ahead and go to the live packs and check out the Beat Tools pack. And in here, there's going to be the drums. And we're going to just pick one of these drum racks. There's a bunch of them that are really nice. You can just click on them to preview them. We're going to start with this one, just because it sounds good. I don't like it. So I'm going to add this to this track right here. The main thing I'm focused on is going to be the kick, snare, and hat first. I'll worry about all the other parts later on. Again, those are more detail oriented. So I'm going to focus on just getting the big rhythm here, or the main part of the rhythm. So I got kick. Those all sound pretty decent. The hats on these presets tend to be pretty loud, so I'm going to turn them down a little bit. So I might turn the snare down a tiny bit too. Okay, cool. So I got my three basic sounds. So now I'm just going to kind of just start writing a drum beat and kind of see how it sounds. The big thing I'm doing here, both with my drums as well as with a lot of my other sounds, is using the capture function, this button right here. So what I'm going to do is play the idea first. And then once I find something I like, I'm going to hit the capture button, and then that will automatically record it for me, which is fantastic. So I never have to hit the record button unless I want to. So I'm going to play a few ideas and see how it feels. Cool. I think that's fine. Hit the capture button. I messed it up a little bit on the first round of 2 bars, so I'm just going to ignore that and just loop the second round of 2 bars. I might need to quantize this a little bit, but that's totally fine. I don't really mind that. And because I'm not going to be using this part of my performance, I can just click right here, hit crop clip, and then boom, we're left with just the important part. And I'm going to go ahead and hit the Command U button to quantize it. So here's my performance. Cool. Good enough, it's close enough, I like it. Hats are still a little bit loud, so I might just click on this button here, it selects all of them, turn down the velocities. Great, that's our starting point. So as I mentioned before, we're going to start really simple, and then we're going to kind of layer in our complication as we go. So what I'm going to do here, before we do that, actually, I do want to mention one other thing. The other reason I really like starting with the capture button is that you can see over in my global tempo, it automatically changed it to match the tempo that I played at. So this started at 120, and then I happened to play at 107 BPM. I didn't know it was 107. I just played at the tempo that felt natural, and then it just automatically sets it to the tempo, which is great. So I got this. Now we're going to start layering our complication. And the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to select the clip, and I'm going to hit Command D to duplicate it. So or Control D. And now we have two of the exact same clip. And on the second version, I'm going to start adding in some kind of change to it. This could be really simple, as in like adding in occasional extra hi-hats. And I'm just option dragging to add those in there to do something like that, just to get a slightly different rhythm. And maybe on the very last one, I will add in some 30-second notes just to give it a little bit more variety. Or maybe I'll add in some extra snares, like that. Cool. And then now I'm going to duplicate it again. And maybe on this one, I will make some more major changes. Maybe I will do something like change up the kick pattern over here. And maybe I will get rid of one of these guys. If I'm not sure if I want to get rid of it, I can use the 0 key, and that will deactivate it. And that way I can just temporarily turn it off just to see how that sounds. And maybe I will also just do 16th notes across the board with occasional 30-second notes at the end of each bar. And I'm just option dragging to copy and paste all over here. And maybe I will also do a little bit of extra 30-second notes. So let's see what this one sounds like. Cool. And then maybe on the next one, I'm going to duplicate this whole thing. Maybe I'll delete one of the sounds. Like I could delete all the kicks out of here just to see what that sounds like. That could work. Or maybe I will delete the hi-hats out of here. Actually, I'll do both. I'll do one of each. We'll do one. We'll duplicate it here. So we'll do one with no hi-hats. And we'll do one with no kicks. So what I did here is I started with one 2-bar beat, and now all of a sudden I have 5 2-bar beats. And this is really important because later on, as I get through the songwriting process, I'm going to have the option to be able to switch back and forth between different musical ideas on the fly. And instead of just having one loop that repeats over and over again, I now have 5 of them that are all based off of the same idea, based off of the same kind of, I call it the skeleton beat. It's kind of like the outline of your beat. With lots of variations, it gives you me more options down the road. So this is a fantastic way to get started and just generate lots of ideas. And we're going to be doing this for pretty much all of our sounds. So we'll start with this as our drum beat. And I'm going to turn that snare down a tiny bit more. It's still a little bit loud for me. And we're going to start adding a bass line on top of it. So we're going to go to our instruments, and I'm just going to grab wavetable. We're just going to do like a saw wave or a square wave, something like that. And we're going to keep it real simple. We're going to put it on monophonic, give it a little bit of glide, maybe get a little bit of unison in there. Cool. So what I'm going to do now is, again, keep it real simple. I'm going to play probably 4 bars, and I'm just going to play different combination of notes until I come up with something I like. And once I find something I like, I'm going to hit the capture button, and I'll have it. And then we're going to be using our drums as our backing track to kind of like figure out exactly the way we want it to sound. So let's go ahead and try this out. All right, so in that situation, I played 3 different 4-bar variations. And if I want to see what that looks like, there's the capture button, and there it is. So I have version number 1, which starts like this. They're all starting with the root note, which is F sharp in this case. And then just had different kind of variations after that. I think I like the first one best, so I'll probably end up sticking with that, but I might switch this up, or I might leave these here in case I want more options later down the road. So we'll go ahead and listen to it, see what it sounds like. Cool, yeah, I don't mind that. We can work with this. So we'll keep the other ones there just in case of emergency, but we're starting like this. We'll quantize this a little bit. And then, sweet. So once again, we start with something really basic here. It's 4 bars, 5 notes, really not very fancy. So now I want to start layering in my complication. And to do that, I'm going to duplicate my clip here, move these guys to the top. And on the second one, we're going to play around rhythmically. So we're going to keep the same notes in the same order of notes, but we're going to make it sound a little more interesting in terms of rhythm. So we can take these longer notes and maybe make these all quarter notes like that. And then same thing with these guys, make these guys also quarter notes. So let's see what this sounds like instead. Nothing too fancy, but again, gets the job done. We're going to duplicate it again. And in this situation, let's make sure these are all the right length. And we'll take the second note and we will option drag it. So I'm doing a lot of copying and pasting. That's a big thing I do in these situations. So now we have, again, slightly more interesting rhythm, and maybe we'll do it one more time. I'll have to do it with this one too. I'll take these guys. Option drag them over here, make them a little shorter, do something like that. Let's see what this sounds like. Get a little closer, get a little interesting. I can also, let's duplicate this one more time. I'm going to take these last notes here of each one and move them up an octave just by hitting Shift and up. So now they're up an octave. So we can kind of see them all at the same time. Cool, and we can fold it like that. Great, so start off with one idea. Now we have 4 of them. And if I were to be doing this in real life and I was sitting down and not doing this on camera, I'd probably make a couple more variations and make it a little more complicated and tweak it a little bit more. We can also, now that we've kind of developed this a little bit more, we can tweak our sound design and see if we want to shift things a little bit, maybe play with the filter, play with the oscillator a little bit. Maybe do a little envelope on the filter frequency to make it a little more plucky. I don't know, there's tons of options. We'll come back to it later on, but just know that we can tweak this and not have to just straight up saw wave or square wave. We can mess around with it and make it sound more interesting. But that's gonna be it for our bass for right now. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna make a new MIDI track. And on our new MIDI track, we're gonna write some chords. And we can do this with a synthesizer. A lot of times I like writing chords with my piano. So we'll start with the grand piano. That's very quiet. Turn this up here. Get more compression, a little more volume. All right, and let's go back to our bass line. So we're doing a, was it 1, 5, 4, 3, 6? Is that the pattern we got going on in terms of our notes? Cool. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna play along with it. And we'll play these first, and then when we're ready, we'll either hit the record button. Actually, let's hit the record button this time. So we'll play these, and I will record enable here, and just play the chord progression that lines up exactly with our bass line. We're not gonna be too creative about it, again, for the sake of time and getting this done. So we're gonna hit the record button. I should have a 1 bar count in, because my count in is set to, not there, count in is set to 1 bar right here. And then I can start playing with the bass line. There is our recording. I don't know why the velocity on this one is way higher than everything else, so let's dial that down a little bit. But now I have a chord progression that should line up with lines up with what's going on here. Get a little more compression in there. Sweet. So now we can start, again, using this as the starting point, our really simple, straightforward starting point. We can start layering in more levels of complication. One thing I like to do a lot with my chords is try out different inversions and voice leading. So we're going to take some of these notes that are higher in pitch, and we're going to shift down to pitch them down an octave. So now the chord progression changes less. So it's the same chords, but they're going to sound a little different. Cool. Another thing I like to do is try things in different octaves. So we can, again, Command A to select all and shift up to move it up an octave so we can hear the same thing in a higher octave. Cool. And then we'll do one more where we play around with the rhythm. So these ideas of like playing with notes, shifting them up a tiny bit, playing with the length of notes, playing with how often they're happening, all really fantastic things to be doing here to create interesting layers of different sounds. So maybe we'll do something like this. Maybe we'll do it one more time here. Actually kind of like that. It's working for me. And then we'll do kind of a similar thing here. Do that, see what happens. Not sure if I'm in love with these last ones here. Maybe I'll get rid of these guys. But 0 key in case I want to bring them back. Just do something like that. All right, so again, start with one basic chord progression. Now I have 4 variations on it. Pretty straightforward. Now what I'm going to do is I may or may not want to use piano in this track. I like writing chords with piano because it's really clear to hear the relationship between all the notes, but sometimes I don't want that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hit Command D on the entire track. So started with this. Now I have the exact same track over here, and we're going to replace that piano with another synthesizer. So now that I've done that, let's get rid of that, and we'll focus on just this one. So it's going to start just sounding like a synthesizer. We can tweak it up a little bit. We might want to go in here and hit the legato button. This will take the end of each note and extend it to the beginning of the next one. So we have longer notes there. Same thing here. Oops. Gotta make sure we do it to all of them. And let's give this a little bit of attack, a little bit of release. And let's make it a little more interesting by adding in a second oscillator. Let's add a little bit of LFO to the oscillator. Don't worry too much about the sound design. This is just some things I'm gonna do to make it sound a little more interesting than just a basic sound. And let's take that and like toss some, do some echo because it has this nice built-in reverb on top of it. And the last thing we're going to do there is we're going to sidechain it to our kick from our drum kit. Cool. So now we have one chord sound that gives us our general chord progression. It's really kind of simple and straightforward. And we have the exact same thing with our synthesis. And we can continue to tweak our sound as needed, but again, not worried about detail-oriented stuff quite yet. So last thing I need on here is going to be a melody. So there's a couple ways I would like to quickly approach a melody. One is to just kind of start jamming out. So maybe I'll make a new MIDI track here, and I will, let's use operator in this case. And let's do like a triangle. Again, not worry too much about sound design quite yet. Cool. So one way I will do this is I'll just start jamming out. I'll just start playing notes until I find something that's cool. And again, hit the capture button, and that'll allow me to record it. So we'll add the bass line back in, and we'll add the piano in for right now. And then I'll just kind of see if anything cool comes up. All right, one last tweak before we move on. I'm going to set this to be polyphonic because right now it's cutting off notes in ways I don't want. Cool, so something like that. I can go in here, hit the capture button, find one of those kind of combinations that I really like, and then boom, there's my melody. Another option that I have is to take these chords that I've already written and copy and paste them, option drag them over here to my plucky synth sound, and then toss on an arpeggiator. It's a really fantastic, quick way of getting lots of melodic elements going on. So now we take these same chords, let's put a little bit of delay on it. Cool. So that's kind of the concept here. We got a bunch of different drum options, a bunch of different bass options, a couple different chords, pads, and melody. Let's go ahead and just rename things so we can keep it organized. We got drums, bass, piano, pad, melody, pluck. Cool. That was kind of the basic concept here, just to kind of get enough stuff that we can get going. Usually what I'm looking for is about 4 to 6 tracks with about 4 to 6 clips per track, and going through this process and just coming up with whatever comes through my brain. But now I've got the basic idea of what I want this track to sound like, right? I can keep going if I want. I can just do this forever if I need to, but just generating lots of content is what's important. There are no bad ideas. There are no bad ideas, and just throw things against the wall, see what sticks. And if it's something you don't like, say like you don't like this clip, just delete it, write something new in there. Just content generation. That's what it's about. All right. So now that we have this, let's go ahead and start building this out to an arrangement. And this is where I think, especially for people who are a little bit more experienced with live, this is where they get stuck. They're like, cool, I've got a concept, I've got an idea, I like what's going on, but how do I turn this into a song? How do I create a beginning, middle, and end? How do I create something that evolves and grows and tells a story? That's what we're going to do next. So we're going to stop everything, and we're going to start thinking about, where do I want my song to start? What's a good intro sound? So for me, I might start with either the melody part, probably the pad part, and we can like preview these and kind of see what we like. Cool. So maybe I want this to be the first part of my sound. What I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start building a little mini arrangement going down through my session view. So right now, this is kind of like my palette of sounds. This is like all the different colors I can choose for my painting that will be my arrangement. And we're going to start layering them going top to bottom. There's a couple ways to do this. One way to do it is just Command C to copy, Command V to paste, or Control C and Control V. I can also option drag, as I've been doing a lot so far. The other way we can do this is a really handy key command called Capture and Insert Scene. Shift Command I or Shift Control I if you're on PC. So if you hit Shift Command I, it's going to copy all of the currently playing clips in your session to a brand new scene directly underneath the one you have selected. So if I hit Shift Command I, it takes the clip that was right here and copies and pastes it down here in a brand new scene. So this scene, this row right here, will now be the intro of my song, right? And then from here, I got to think about, okay, what do I want to have happen next? What's the next sound? Maybe I want to add in some piano. And maybe also a little bit of melody. But maybe I don't want that much of it. Maybe we'll turn the filter down on this a little bit. And we might have to automate some things around here. Cool. So this is going to be the next part of my song. So now all I need to do is hit Shift Command I. It's going to copy and paste this clip from here down to here. The piano one I had here to here. And then the melody one I had from here to here. So just anything that's currently playing is going to be copied and pasted down. If I don't want this one, maybe I want to switch this one up, I can just delete it and grab a different one and toss it in here. Maybe I'll grab this one, toss it in there. But you can always change your mind, right? And then on the next one, maybe I will add in some drums. Actually, you know what? I changed my mind here. No piano yet. I'm going to start with the drums and this part together. A little better. I like that. All right. So now what we want is to add in the next part of the song. So now we'll add in the piano. And maybe I'll switch this guy up a little bit. All right, so we're going to Shift Command I down here. And then maybe from here, we will bring it down a level. We'll like get real minimal with it. So maybe we'll get rid of this and get rid of this. So now if I hit Shift Command I, because there's nothing playing here and there's nothing playing here, nothing gets copied and pasted down. So this is gonna be our main part before the like first real beat section, right? So next up, we know the beat's coming in. There's the bass line. And then maybe we'll bring back in a pad sound. And I want this guy to switch up as well. So maybe we'll change my mind or make a mistake. If I delete it, I can go back and find a different one. All right, and then let's bring it back down again. We'll bring back the pad in. We'll get rid of that. We'll get rid of that, get rid of that. Maybe a different piano. I'll use that guy over here instead. So a lot of like editing and changing things on the fly is totally fine. So we have a little break section here, and then we'll go back to the bass line with a different drum beat. I'm just Shift Command and I to bring things back in. And then from here, let's kind of start bringing it back down a little bit to build more towards like an outro. So maybe we'll minimize the drums again. Get rid of the bass line. Cool. So that was it. That was my like rough draft, basic sketch of what I want this arrangement to be, based off of the elements that I generated very quickly here, right? So we got an intro, we kind of build it up a little bit, bring it back down, and we have our first kind of like main beat section right here, a little bit of break, and then we have like another beat section and then an outro, right? So nothing, again, nothing too fancy here in terms of arrangement, but it's enough to kind of like take all these ideas that are floating in space and kind of build them sequentially down. So now what I'm going to do is I have all of these ideas in the session view, and now I need to start arranging them. And the way that I'm going to do that is really simple. I'm going to hit the stop button here. It'll reset my arrangement view back to bar 1. I'm going to hit the record button. And depending on your settings, this might automatically start recording, but I have it set up so it's going to wait. And I'm going to use these scene launch buttons right here. I'm not sure if you can see this because it might be behind my head a little bit, but I'm going to launch these scenes. It's going to play the entire row. And then when I'm ready, I'm going to launch the next scene, and it's going to record everything I do in real time over to the arrangement view. So we'll try this out real quick. So I'm going to hit play right here. Recording this over here. When I'm ready, I'm going to launch the next one. Recording everything over. Everything's being recorded in real time. And if you make a mistake, you can always fix it later. It's not a big deal. And if you want to improvise with it, you can improvise. I can let this play twice in a row if I want. I could go up, I could go back down. You don't need to go sequentially. You can perform it live, which is really cool. Here's my outro. Boom. There is the rough draft of my arrangement. So I'm going to hit my batch arrangement button. There all is laid out from beginning to end. And like I said, if I want to improvise with it or I want to jump around with it, or if you make a mistake, you can fix that all really easily here in the arrangement view. So now that I've done that, now I've got the big picture ideas out of the way first, and it didn't take me very long. And now I can start going in and start refining this and putting the details. So I can do things like noise sweeps for transitions. I can start automating things. I can start replacing some of these placeholders, both in terms of MIDI notes as well in terms of sound design, with the actual sounds that I really want. I can go in here and make this bass line really crazy with lots of different sound design and lots of different effects. I can basically move from the big picture phase to detail oriented. And I didn't waste a lot of time. And I have, like I said, the core outline of an arrangement. Keep in mind that this is very much the first draft of my arrangement. When I actually write a song like this, The end result sounds nothing like this. I go through lots of edits and lots of changes. I will, take clips and I will move them around, or I will hit the 0 key to deactivate, or I will delete them. There's lots of changes still to be made here, but this is what I found to be the fastest and most efficient way to just sit down, get some ideas into the computer, and end with an arrangement, like I said, or at least a rough draft of an arrangement. So that's kind of the concept here. Like I said, I went through a lot of it pretty quickly, so hopefully that is useful for you. Hopefully it's really informative. And now that we're here, we can really dive into really sinking our teeth into making this track kind of blossom into the next stage of the workflow. But I find that the faster that I can get through this phase, from generating ideas to building arrangements, the better my songs are. Because if I spend, 3 hours just building the parts of my song, that can really kill my momentum, especially if I'm trying to write a song in a very short period of time. If I'm trying to hit a really tight deadline, like I'm going to be doing for the next 12 months, trying to write a song a week, if I have to spend 2 days doing this, it's going to kill a lot of time. It's going to really kill my momentum. But if I can just get those ideas down, now that I'm here, now I can switch from idea generation mode to idea refinement mode. And then that's a totally different thing. And then I can really focus in and really start to dial this track in. So that's kind of the concept here. Like I said, hopefully that is really useful for you. Hopefully it's informative. The 2 big things I want you to take away from this is that, number 1, start simple and then layer in your complication as you go. Don't try to write the most complex beat right at the bat. Start with something that works and then go from there. Don't write the most complex chord progression you possibly can right at the bat. Start with something really basic and then build in your complication, and then just duplicate clips. So easy. Just reuse ideas, recycle ideas, move them around a little bit, and you have more content to work with, which means when you actually go to build your arrangements, you have more things to work with. I really have started to notice when people make tracks where they're just like, okay, I got one loop, it loops forever, there's my arrangement. Don't do that. It gets boring. Have different clips that you can jump back and forth between that are doing different things, and then all of a sudden your arrangement starts to come alive. So try it for yourself. Let me know how it goes. If you have not tried the capture and insert scene way of arranging, it's really fun and it's really easy. And once you get used to it, it can be very, very quick. But yeah, that's it. Hopefully you enjoyed watching that. If you would like to learn more about what we do at Catalyze Academy, you can check out our website, catalyzeacademy.com. You can hit the Patreon for access to more of me, more content, more streams, more videos, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's going to be it for this video, and hopefully I'll see you again in the next one. Thanks for watching.